So let's get started. My name is Christine Hardy, life alignment practitioner and teacher, and today I have with me Gilly from the UK and Samantha from South Africa. And what's interesting here is that both of them had balances with me during the month of September, which were very, very similar to each other's balances. And the balance was connected with the first ray and bringing in certain energies to assist them in their life. So the first ray is about power and will and how we use our power and will and bringing in balance. And for Sam, it was connected with her mental body, which might tell us in a way that maybe Sam processes things more on a mental level. I don't know. How is that for you, Sam?
Oh, definitely. I think I'm an overthinker, and mentally I like to process everything, and knowledge is power to me. So
okay, so that made sense for you with when I
absolutely
explained to you that you process a lot on a mental level. And for you, Gilly, yours was more on a spiritual level. How would that relate for you and the way you process things?
Well, I would say I'm very much a mental processor, but I'm definitely trying to move a bit more onto the spiritual side. I do have a very strong spiritual practice, and I think that's building in my life now and maybe taking me more away from the mental side, which was very much where I've been my whole life.
Okay, that's great. So you tend to process things more on a mental level, but you've been working on your spiritual development. So maybe you're kind of making that shift now. Is that how it feels for you, that you are making a shift more from processing more on a spiritual level than you are on a mental level due to all your spiritual practice that you do?
Yeah, definitely more so this year.
Okay, and when you say spiritual practice, Julie, what do you mean exactly by that?
I do a yoga kriya every morning, which kind of tunes your body into a higher vibration. And I spent 6 weeks in an ashram earlier this year, and kind of found a really strong connection with one of the Devis at the temple. So that's been a big shift for me rather than it's not a mental connection, it's a kind of a spiritual connection, a visceral connection.
Yes. So for me, when I think about spiritual connection, I think about more tuning inside of me more than outside of me, and how that connects with, well, if you're religious, maybe you would say God or Jesus or your spirit guides or your guardian angels or your direct line to God, love, energy. What is that for you?
Yeah, a direct line, I'd say.
Yes, yeah. And I love that direct line when you can do that as well, and you don't have to have something in between that. It's a direct connection to source. And I love that, Julie. That's awesome. Okay, so there were certain lessons to learn for both of you with bringing in this balance, and I just find it just amazing and so blessed to have you both here today. So thank you for sharing your time, which might help to give insights to others. I just think this is brilliant. So here I had the common things for the both of you was there's a lesson to learn in the balance that you had, and we'll talk about that a little bit more just now, but the lesson to learn was tenderness, and I have a feeling that this tenderness was a tenderness for self. How do you feel about that and how your balance went? I'm jumping the gun.
I think for me, I feel that the tenderness as well is for other people, because I'm very blocked off. Like, I deal with stuff by myself emotionally, and my journey has always been me, so I don't allow people in. So I'm very tough on other people, but as well as on myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be good at stuff, to just move forward enough. I'm very hard on myself.
Okay. So yeah, so tenderness on self can also, I'm not sure if you had a little bit of a blockage and you needed to bring down something that you had put up. I seem to remember we did an exercise together. It's coming to me now. And what happens is when we go into protecting ourselves over a certain incident that happened in the past, we bring up a wall, and that wall does protect us, but at the same time it stops things from getting in that we want, like love and nurturing and tenderness, to receive that from others, because we're afraid of getting hurt. And I remember this exercise we did. Can you just explain that to Jilly so that she knows what you did, and so any other viewers that are listening can understand how we did that exercise to bring that down and what the story was behind that?
So we obviously did an exercise where I had to visualize myself with this protection around me, and I had to learn to break it down and let the walls down. And then you had my energy where I was allowing myself to, my heart to take in more, and my hands were just obviously allowing so much more within my energy. It definitely felt like you hit the nail on the head, and I mean, it just.
And tell me, when was there a time period to that story? Are you happy to share a little bit of why you put that barrier up, and how easy or difficult it was to take it down?
So obviously the wall came up after my divorce. I was in a sort of emotionally abusive relationship. So I didn't allow anybody else around me to know what was going on within our relationship. I just learned to deal with it myself. I obviously had to withdraw because of how he made me feel. So I had to learn to just keep everything inside. And I think that's how progressively my walls have just continued to go up. And I think with every relationship, friendships, family, it's just, I don't allow people to get in because I resonate with the hurt that so easily came to me before.
Yes. So Sam, you can see that became a pattern in your life then.
Yes,
how long ago was your divorce?
6 years ago.
Okay, so for 6 years you could see this pattern playing out in your life, and how you were maybe in a way, with this barrier that you had put up, it wasn't allowing this tenderness maybe to come in on a real deep level, because mentally you were processing everything to protect yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so
it's like whenever something would go on in my life, I would need time to mentally process it. I would shut everyone out, and it would be a case of, I need to get through this on my own. I need to figure this out on my own. So I shut people out and I don't let people in. So it's on point.
So how was that draining your vision of maybe how you wanted things to be to how they actually were? Because the word vision came up for you both, and the word vitality came up for you both. So I'll speak to you in a moment, Jilly, but it'd be interesting to do the comparisons. And it's funny how we're going to start with Jilly first and we end up with Samantha. That's, I think they call it Sod's Law, but anyway. Yeah, because I put you a bit on the spot, I know, with this last minute chat. So yeah, but anyway, it's really good because it's just going to flow organically. So the thing is, the vitality, I would imagine, would have been draining from you from trying to put this protection up all the time, because it's like wearing a mask in a way. We are feeling different to how we're portraying ourselves. So when there's no coherence really with what's happening in the heart and how we are expressing ourselves, because we're protecting the heart and expressing what we're needing to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely, that's right. I would never show what I'm feeling inside to anyone, because I was dealing with it. I didn't need anybody to make it make sense to me.
Right. So in this case, we're needing to bring in strength, and we had to discreate the protection first, and your way of coping with things was denial. And so you're nodding your head relating to that. Your stress coping mechanism was denial. How were you doing that? Were you just doing that through not expressing how you were feeling because you couldn't talk to anybody? So that was all part of
exactly that. Exactly that. It's like you say, you're wearing a mask, so you're living in denial. You're not admitting what you truly feeling or expressing what you're truly feeling. And like you say, I mean, we want all these soft emotions in our lives, but we don't allow it in. So like you say, the vision, I mean, you want this in the future or now currently in your life, but you're not allowing it to happen. So it's denial. You're not actually living in what you should be.
Yes. So now this balance was done this month, and we're still in the same month the balance was done. Is it about 2 weeks ago we did the balance?
Yeah.
Approximately about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And how do you feel that balance has helped you so far to date?
It's actually been a release and a relief. You know my story, Christine. Like I've obviously this year dedicated myself to self-development and self-love and mind, body, and soul completely. And when I had that balance with you, obviously when you sent it through, I was so confused. I was like, this is totally different to what I've normally got. And when we spoke about it, it completely made sense. And it's almost like it's exactly where I am on my journey. And it's what I need to do now. You know, I've got this far, and it's been such a relief because now I can focus on that tenderness and focus on bringing the protection down. It's calm now in my life, you know. So it was just pretty amazing that it came up when it did. Incredible.
And then exercise came up as a modality for you, and it's the second time I think it came up in your balance exercise because it's there to support you. So we give a modality to help our clients to take part responsibility for their healing process. So I do know that you have been exercising more, whereas before you couldn't even get yourself out the house. How has that been for you, and how has that changed things for you, Sam?
Sure. I mean, I had no energy to do any exercise. I didn't even want to leave my house to do anything. But since doing the exercise, it's almost like it's been a shift in my mindset. So it's helped me with that mental processing, you know, like you acknowledge that you are capable of doing it and you're in control now of actually releasing whatever you need to, you know, it's an outlet. But also it's changed my mindset completely. It's just given me extra oomph in life.
That's fantastic. And how have your children seen a noticed difference with you?
I've actually noticed a difference in my children as well. Totally with my energy wise. Like it seems when I'm low, they like a little bit out of control or their behavior is different. But now that I've noticed that I'm more positive and happier and my energy is lighter, I can see a difference in them.
That's awesome. And then we know children are like little sponges. They pick up everything. So when I balance children, it's normally for the parents' stuff, not their stuff. So yeah, that's what happens. And the children take on those patterns as well, which is quite scary when you think about people staying in their patterns for so long without really working with it. Because, you know, when we work with these guiding questions during your balancing, it's taking you to more subconscious behavioral patterns and how the subconscious mind is working, which dominates your whole life. When you think
it's almost things like you don't want to admit. It's like it's stuff that you don't want to admit that you're doing. You're like, I don't know, you just it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's great, because I've seen a big difference in you in a short space of time, and it's just wonderful that you're doing the work. And so now, thank you. I'm going to move over to Julie. Can you hear me, Julie? Because I know you've got a little bit of internet problems. Yeah. So in a sense, what I'm picking up, there's an overload. You know, when we go into these states, we get overloaded. Why we were needing to bring in truthfulness, self-reliance, and how that was impacting your vitality and your vision and the will, because we're saying, you know, sometimes we operate more from the will rather than allowing things to be, for example. and letting them unfold naturally. We push ourselves and push ourselves. Can you share a little bit about what this was representing for you and your story connected with this balance?
Yeah, like Samantha, when the balance came through, I just looked at it in complete bewilderment. It was kind of like, I don't understand this. This isn't this isn't making sense for me.
Yes.
And then we had the session together and went through it all and got a bit more clarity. Excuse me. The tenderness thing is definitely self-tenderness and being kinder to myself and not pushing myself so much. Because I'm suffering very badly with chronic fatigue at the moment, there's a lot of frustration in my life, and there's a lot of pushing myself beyond my...
Julie, yes, so that's like connected with total overload. And when we are so stressed and overloaded, it's really hard to do just simple tasks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sorry about that. Self-tenderness, the self-love, strength. Like Samantha, I have problems with getting people to help me or allowing people to help me or asking people to help me. She's, I'm fine, I can do it all. I can do everything myself. I don't need anybody else. And I'm not going to ask anybody else in case they reject me and in case they say, no, can't help you. So it's much easier just to do everything yourself and avoid that possible hurt of being rejected. And the thing is, when I do finally ask people, usually people are delighted to help.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's made me very competent in lots of areas because I've had to be. Yeah. But it's probably put a lot more strain on myself because I was separating out from everybody else, and it would have been much kinder and much more beneficial to, connect with other people and get their support, their expertise, their guidance, their wisdom to support me.
Yeah, so that's
because doing stuff on your own, you cannot be good at everything yourself.
No, absolutely not.
There are other people who would love to have your support. So it goes both ways. It's not just me, I need support.
Yes.
It's connecting with others, and then they support you and you support them. You help them. They're there for you when you need when you have problems and you need support, and you're there for them in the same way. Because other people also don't like to ask.
That's true. And
so
and
you
also,
can end with two people who desperately need what the other one can give them.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes, when you come together, like we are coming together now as a group with two very similar balances, I can see you both agreeing with each other about, this balance and the common, let's say, things that you could share. And what's incredible is that, when we're on a certain vibrational level, we do attract people into our lives that are on a similar vibrational level. And then we can have coherence and we can talk about those things. That's why we get these support groups with, whether it be abused women, alcoholics, or, substance abuse of some sort, or just now this balance is about overload. And how many women out there today are multitasking and are single parents and trying to cope with so much and look after their emotional well-being and spend enough time nurturing and loving themselves, which most women, generalizing, don't, because they put their children first and they put their friends first and they put everyone else first before themselves. Or in your case, Sam, like you put up this protection because you're hurting so much and you don't want to burden your friends and your family with your stuff, so you don't open up. And so everything gets internalized. And instead of going forward in life, we kind of regress and go backwards. And then we're just stuck with this overload and don't seem to be able to move through it.
Well, there was a word that you used, which was victim. And I think that resonates with me quite a bit. It's like, I never played victim to other people, but within myself, I always felt like I had bad luck in life. So I would always be like, oh, I'm just waiting for the next bad thing to happen. You know, you get stuck in that motion where you don't have good energy. You're constantly dwelling on all the stuff that's happened and made you this way, that you can't see, like the vision as well. Like you can't see it getting any better.
Yeah. And how is that for you, Julie? Now you find in more of a spiritual way of working with things. Has that shifted things for you, and helping you to cope with your overload? And I think you went for therapy yesterday. You know, so that acupuncture therapy, I think this helps as well. So everything that we do for ourselves, for our well-being is great, because it's never ever one thing on its own, is it? Sometimes we need to be supported by other healing modalities or health practitioners to help us to become whole in all those areas of our life.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all different levels,
Yeah.
all need different things, all need different kinds of support. The one thing that I have become aware of is always preempting other people's needs and helping them when maybe it's better for them to learn to do things on their own. That's the flip side of this, is there's doing too little and there's doing too much.
Okay, what comes to mind
So
for
there's
me,
not
Julie?
asking for help for yourself,
Yeah.
or there's asking for help with everything. So you've got the spectrum, and what you want is to be somewhere in the middle where you're responsive to other people's needs, but you're not preempting people's needs, and you're also responsive to your own needs. So you ask for help when you need it, and you manage on your own when you don't.
Yes. I think the word that was coming to mind when you said that was empowerment. So how have you seen that maybe a healing, the healing sessions, because actually Sam is a client, but you've been a practitioner and you do other healing modalities, Julie. And yeah, we met in Mauritius. So can you hear me still? Because I see you flickered off a little bit there, went off the radar. So Julie has done the entry level into life alignment, was then called body spin, quite a number of years ago, I think about 6 years ago now. And you've progressed since then. So you kind of quite immersed in this form of energy healing. How do you see that this is an empowering tool, a self-empowering tool?
Well, it says in the Bible, know thyself, or maybe it's one of the great Greek philosophers, know thyself. And I think that's what we're all trying to do, because you want to understand why things aren't working in your life.
Sure. So this podcast that I'm doing is about self-discovery, know thyself. So that's a very, very good point that Julie's making there. And it takes work. So sometimes, you know, you think about going for a healing session and you think that, you know, whoever is going to be doing the healing is going to be waving a magic wand over. Okay, these are my magic wands that we do use for healing the body, funnily enough. But it's not like you're a wizard and you can just magically make someone's life perfect. It's a process, isn't it? It's a process of unfolding these layers that have built up around you and in your life, and how you perceive those experiences, and how that maybe there could be even a distorted perception that has come about because of those experiences, that then, you know, you take on these belief systems that then maybe aren't true, because, you know, you're saying, for example, because you've had a bad experience in relationships with men, all men are bad. And of course, not all men are bad. It's just that we take on that belief because we have been a victim of bad relationships. And so we become very cautious. We put up the protection and we're not really showing our true selves. We're afraid of being hurt. And because we are projecting that, and that's the vibration we're putting out, and then, of course, what does the universe give us back? Another bad man. And my mum used to call them bad eggs. And she had a few bad eggs in her life, my mother. So she's now, you know, for many, many years just said, I don't want a man in my life. I don't need a man in my life. Thank you. I'm not interested. She would rather be alone. So she lives a life alone. But that's part of the protection. You're shutting out what could come in. And she's had some nice suitors come her way, but she pushes them away because she's afraid of being hurt. And so my mom has lived a life on her own for quite a number of years now. And it's never too late to fall in love. You know, I knew an elderly gentleman who was just reached his 80s, and he'd just fallen in love with another elderly lady, and you could see his eyes twinkling. His blue faded eyes were twinkling, and he was sitting with her in a tea house. We met him and his new girlfriend. It seems so weird to say girlfriend, and here you are 80 years of age, and here you're sitting with, you know, your girlfriend. And they were holding hands, and they were, you could just see, so in love. And that gave them both a little bit of happiness for a short while, because unfortunately he died a couple of years later. But how lovely to end your life falling in love again at that age. Just how absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So Jilly, you're back with us now.
Things, I don't know if you can hear them.
I can, yes.
That's a lovely story, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's true, you do put up protection, and then this is, I said earlier, but I don't think you heard me, one of the most important things I was taught is there's nothing going on outside, it's all a reflection of what's going on inside you.
Yes.
So when, as you say, you know, if you have a certain frame of mind, you'll get a certain kind of men. And then you're going, why am I getting all these horrible men, or all these unsuitable men, or all these unavailable men? And you go, what is it in me that is unavailable, that is disconnected, that is protecting?
Yes.
And I found that's it's a really profound and helpful way of looking at things, is remembering that it's all about you. Whatever's going on outside, if you're surrounded with angry people, where are you angry? If things seem to be going in a very unsettled way, what is it in you that's unsettled?
Yeah, so I think what we've learned is that what we think about, we bring about in our lives. So what are one of the things that we need to look at is what are our consistent and persistent thoughts? Are those thoughts serving us? And if they're not, how do we change those thoughts into thoughts that are going to be serving us? And also, if people have progressed to the point of being physically ill, you know, this is body, mind, energy medicine. So what is happening is that your body is storing the memory of that trauma somewhere in your body, and it plays out as an ache or a pain or an illness. So the whole idea is, self-discovery isn't just a frivolous thing, is it? It's something that actually that should be a part of our daily lives. It should be something that we give us to ourselves as a gift for our personal development, for our self-discovery, because when we do that, as Sam said earlier, her transformation, and she's still going through it, of course, because it's a process, has already had a positive impact on her children, because her children are responding to what she is feeding herself, what she's feeding her mind, what she's feeding her soul. And that is already having a positive impact on her family life. And hopefully, Sam, your love life as well.
Let's not get started on that.
It's a nice little laugh there.
No, to be honest, is like, I'm so happy where I am at the moment, you know, like the journey that I've had, and I'm actually learning to be my own best friend, you know, find out what I like, do stuff that I want to do. And when you're in a relationship, you forget, you forget who you are, you change for that person. You don't do stuff for yourself anymore, you do stuff for other people. Same with your children, like you said, your life goes by and you you don't have the time to make time for you. And I think now that I've been doing that, genuinely doing that, I've seen an incredible change in myself.
Yeah. So Sam, that is a very, very good point you've brought up there, because it goes with what Ginny was just saying: know thyself first. Know thyself and love thyself first. And so it goes back to the tenderness, because when we know ourselves and we love ourselves enough, we're not going to expect any less from another person. And
correct.
We're not searching,
you have boundaries.
Yes, and we're not searching for another person to make us happy, because we're feeling correct. Happy within. And if we're feeling happy within, we've got all the resources that we need, and we're not looking for those needs to be fulfilled by somebody else.
But then, like you said as well, that will change the pattern as well, because now you know what you will accept in your life and what you don't deserve. Absolutely. So you won't fall for the same kind of guy anymore, because you'll pick up on the nonsense that they bring forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to close, Jilly, would you like to say anything to add to this? Yeah, like your inside knowledge, your inside knowing, maybe which comes from part of your spiritual development of knowing without knowing, and trusting, like trusting your gut. I'm reading an amazing book at the moment, The Three Brains. So, you know, everything is interacting in your body. So you've got your head brain, your heart brain, and your gut brain, and all of them need to be in balance with each other. So if the head is saying one thing, but the heart is saying something else, there's going to be no coherence. And if you're trying to force from the will, for example, for something to be a certain way, and the gut is screaming no, we're going to have endless problems, because the gut is trying to send messages to say, no, this is not in alignment with things, you know, the body knows. So what do you have to say about that for yourself, Jilly?
Yeah, the body always knows, and the body is the boss. So even though your head brain is saying one thing and your heart brain is saying something else, if your body brain has an opinion, that is what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So even though you think you know what you want, and you know you've got a clear vision of what you want, if you're not in coherence, then things aren't going to work out that way. So you really need to, one of the techniques that I've learned is you talk to the brains. So you go, okay, head brain, what do you want? Heart brain, what do you feel about this? Body brain, what do you feel? And then you try and find some kind of way where all of them are happy, and then things will start working in a better way.
Yes. That sometimes can be really hard, especially when we are emotionally invested in something. It's really hard to find out, like, where is that truth coming from, and to find that place of real peace and centeredness, where, you know, sometimes life is throwing you a curveball and you're in the middle of a crisis, and it's like, you know, how do I get out of this? And it's really, sometimes we have to talk to ourselves and use the will to get through a crisis in our life, and say, on a positive note, I'm going to have a choice in the way I'm going to respond or react to this crisis. And am I going to be the victim or the victor? These two words, I love the opposites of them and what they represent. And I try to remind myself when I'm in a crisis that this is a life test, and I don't know what the test is yet, but at the end of it, I'm going to have the realization and the growth. And sometimes there are points in your life that get really, really painful, and you just wonder, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to get through it? And then that's where the spiritual side comes in, where you just know that if I love myself enough and know that God loves me, and that I'm not alone, I will get through this because I'm loved.
That's very nice.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that we have inspired others. Ginny, sorry that your communication wasn't always 100% there, but I'm hoping I filled in for the moments when you froze. And yeah, I hope that we do have the opportunity to get together a bit more often with other like-minded people who are happy to share their experiences to help others on their own journey of self-discovery. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me today.
Thank you, Grace.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.